Let me tell you briefly who I am and how I got to where I am today, because it certainly is a God story as well. Name's Dale Hart. I'm from Weatherford, Texas originally, but moved to Fort Worth about 45 years ago, and was a football coach for a number of years at high schools over in the Fort Worth area. Left coaching shortly after marrying my beautiful wife, and shortly after that went into nonprofit ministry. Felt called to, I was on the board of directors at a children's home over in Keller, Texas, and felt called to enter into that work as a fundraiser. So I have been in nonprofit ministry for, since 1993. About 16 years ago, first of all, I've served as executive director. I've served as vice president of development. I've just about everything you can do in nonprofit I have done. I was 3 years. I was vice president of development for Dallas Christian School. So I am from Fort Worth, but hey, I have spent my time in Dallas as well, so I do understand. But about 16 years ago, I left the business side of it and started a consulting business because I was getting so many questions about nonprofit ministry. So I started a consulting business, and since that time, I have helped in the founding of more than 100 nonprofit organizations nationwide. So if you have IRS problems, questions, you want to start a ministry, you want to start a school, those are the kind of things that I can help you with. But about a year ago, actually it was 2 years ago when they came to me, but I've been with Mission Increase now since October of last year. But a gentleman who was president of National Christian Foundation of North Texas for here in Dallas and Fort Worth came to me and said, a Mission Increase would like to go to Fort Worth. Would you entertain serving as the area director for Mission Increase? And I said, well, let's find out a little bit more about it. I did know something about Mission Increase. How many of you have heard of Mission Increase? Okay, good. I had to do a little bit more research about them, and everything I found out about them I loved, because Mission Increase was doing exactly what I was doing on a private basis and was having to charge for. What we do is technically we grow ministries for the kingdom. That's our purpose. And the way we do that is we provide quarterly workshops that are available to nonprofits. And when I say nonprofits, technically we are directed at nonprofit ministries, Christian ministries. However, we will talk to any nonprofit that comes to us for training as long as they understand where we're coming from. Everything we teach is biblically based. When we talk about giving, we talk about biblical giving. When we talk about fundraising, we're going to talk about fundraising as a ministry. So we can, and the great thing about it is the things that we teach from the Bible translate into those that are not ministries as well, because it's the right thing to do. So we'll teach anyone, we'll work with anyone, as long as they understand we are a ministry and the things that we teach are biblically based. As I said, we do quarterly workshops, and those are done on topics of interest. For example, Monday morning, I will be presenting a workshop at Watermark Church from 9:30 to 11:30 on growing your board of directors faithfully and in a way that they can be more effective. So it's a board training seminar. I've already got about 25 signed up for that workshop. But if any of you would like to attend that, you or any of your board members, I'd love to have you join us. And I'll tell you before we leave how you can sign up for that. But we do quarterly workshops, and from those we will do learning centers where smaller groups can come together and we can take a deeper dive into topics, okay? For example, if we could assemble 4 or 5 organizations that wanted to sit down and really talk deeper about board of directors. This is going to be a 2-hour seminar. I've done day-long seminars on board development. I've met for a weekend with boards to do board training. So there's a lot you can talk about there. We're just going to hit the top of board training, but there's a place we can go deeper, and that's in our group learning sessions. However, the most effective way for us to be of value to you as a nonprofit organization is in our one-on-one coaching. What we would like to do is get to the point that you can, after registering with us, tell me, hey, could we sit down and talk about my issues? Because that's where the rubber meets the road, is in that one-on-one coaching. Like I said, I've got 30 years of experience. If I don't know the answer, the solution, I can find someone who can help you get there. And our job is not to tell you what to do. It's to walk you through the process and help you decide yourself what's the best decision. Now, I've been in your shoes. I understand better than anyone your needs as a director, even as a board member. Sometimes you have questions, you have needs that need to be answered, and you don't feel comfortable in going to your board and asking them. That's what they hired you for. You're supposed to know the answer, okay? But you need a place, a safe place that you can go and ask the hard questions and say, how can I get past this, okay? We want to be that for you. Mission Increase, I can be that person for you that you can just pick up the phone, you can shoot me an email, you can say, can we get together for a few minutes because something's come up and I need some wisdom, I need some advice. That's what we hope to provide for you. The other thing we hope to provide for you is community. In our workshops, every workshop we have, we will take, sometimes it seems like an inordinate amount of time, introducing everyone like we did here and talking a little bit about the cause that your organization was formed to address. Everyone has a problem, a kingdom problem that we are called to address. But we have a solution, and hopefully there is an outcome that we can suggest we expect. I have a good friend who's probably the most successful builder in Tarrant County, and he was on my board at one time, and he said, every 2 years I go to Harvard for their Harvard Business School. I mean, this guy's been successful and in the business for 30 years. It's his family's business. And I said, well, what do you get out of that? And he said, well, out of the classes, virtually nothing. But he said, I always get wisdom from the people that are there doing the same thing I'm doing. Okay? That's what we want to do as we build community for nonprofit ministries in Dallas, is allow you to get to know the other people. We had a conversation just a little bit ago about the grief recovery programs that they do. I met yesterday with a ministry that has a site in Fort Worth and in Dallas that does grief recovery. Well, those people ought to be able to talk to each other through their processes and their failures and their successes. So community is really, really important to us at Mission Increase, and we hope that we can make it something that is important to you as well. Okay? Maybe the most important thing I'll say all day is it doesn't cost you anything. All of this is at no cost to the ministry. That's because we've gone out and we've raised the funds to make this happen in Dallas and in Fort Worth. So when we call you into a workshop or you call us into a one-on-one training situation, it doesn't cost you a dime. Okay? That's always, like I said, I've been in your shoes. That's music to my ears if I'm a nonprofit leader. But let's talk for just a second about what we really do. While we coach on every aspect of fundraising, management, development, we teach something called transformational giving. It's the core of what we do, and it reaches out into every aspect of what we teach. Transformational giving is is something that we hope that as you experience, you will also experience a joyful calling to fundraising ministry. And we believe that fundraising is as much a ministry as your ministry is. We are called to give, and we are told that if we give, we will be blessed. So, transformational giving is a key aspect of everything that we will teach you. Talk just a second about that. First of all, do you know that the average amount of time that a fundraiser stays in that business is 18 months to 2 years? Okay, and the reason, they get bored. It's not what they thought it was. They don't like it. It becomes a chore, and they get out. Okay, so the answer to that is, how do we make fundraising joyful? And it takes a paradigm shift. We have what we call our transformational giving principles, and there are 10 of them, and I'm going to mention a couple of them for you today. Principle 1, transformational giving is based on the abundance and trustworthiness of God, not a theology of scarcity. And as in my 30 years of working with nonprofit organizations, that may be the elephant in the room for everyone, because I've had leaders of nonprofit organizations say to me, I wish you'd quit starting those other nonprofits because it's so competitive out there right now for funding. People, let me tell you, that's a theology of scarcity rather than abundance, because God's already told us it's all His anyway. And we have a saying that if God wants it done, God will fund it. And we have to believe that, because if we don't believe that, it's going to creep into everything we do. The fundraising that we do, there's an old saying, the worst salesman in the world is the one that's got to make a sale. Okay? If that's the way you're raising money, then it will come out in your attempts. Transformational giving principle 2 is that every act of giving is first and foremost a statement about the faithfulness of God. Not just giving, but asking and receiving as well. So if you can't buy into that theology of abundance, what you're really doing is you're making a statement about the faithfulness of God, because He's told you that He will provide. So you have to embrace that theology of abundance. At its core, transformational giving does the following 3 things. First, it reveals and reflects the character of God, His generosity, His goodness, His faithfulness, abundance, and sometimes His timing. Second, it recharacterizes the nature of a ministry's relationships with its donors. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a second, but we have to no longer be concerned about the organization first, but the giver first. Third, it aligns our organizations with biblical cause. Okay? Transformational giving will keep us in line with biblical cause and not let us drift away from the reason we're doing what we're doing. Okay? We know God is generous, but we don't always see or fully understand His generosity. We get stuck in this theology of scarcity, and that's not God, that's our fault. Okay? So you ask yourself this: why did God call you to this work? If you're here today, you are called, and God called you to lead and to govern this ministry. He brought you here to this point in your life with a specific calling. As I said, I've started more than 100 nonprofit organizations, and oftentimes I have people come to me and say, here's what I want to do. I want to start this ministry because God's called me to do it. I've even had them say, I'm going to build this house. The back room has to be blue because God told me it was blue. And I mean, people can get, and when people tell you that God told me to do this, it's really hard for you to say, well, wait just a minute. Are you sure that was God talking to you? But how do we know if it's God talking to us? We're called to look at Scripture, to pray, and to seek godly wisdom. Mission Increase hopes to be that godly wisdom that you as a nonprofit organization can come to make sure that you are staying within God's will. Transformational giving principle number 5 is ministry leaders have a dual calling to steward the mission and grow the people that God brings. We do have a dual calling, and it's not an either or, it's a both and. Okay, but if you want to be joyful in your fundraising, the key to that is making the paradigm shift from I'm asking you to give me something to I'm giving you an opportunity to participate in something that is going to mean something in the kingdom and mean something to you. If you will always, when you're talking to a donor, when you're thinking about a donor, when you're thinking about how can we engage, think in terms of what does it mean for that person? Does it become a transformational gift rather than a transaction? We're all going to get transactional gifts. We know that. But our goal is to make them all transformational. Now, what is the definition of a transformational gift? That's different for everyone. I'll tell you a little story. When I was I guess probably a freshman in college, maybe a senior in high school, my parents left for a weekend. I went to church, and I knew they weren't going to be back, and I was going to have to fend for myself for lunch. Came time to make a donation. Plate was passed around. I reached in my pocket, and I had only a $10 bill. And in Weatherford, Texas, in early 1970s, there weren't many places open on Sunday. But I knew if I put that $10 in there, I was going to go home and eat a bologna sandwich, which was not too appealing to me. But I thought, So I put the only $10 I had in my pocket in the plate. Now, did that $10 transform the church budget that week? No, it didn't. I stepped outside the door of that church building. I can tell you exactly where I was, and I reached in my pocket like this, and I thought, well, there's a gum wrapper in there. It's wadded up. I pulled it out and undid it, and it was a $10 bill. Okay, so that gift wasn't transformational to the church, but it was very transformational for me. Okay, so think in terms of the people that are giving to you, regardless of the size of the gift. You want that gift to be a transformational gift for them, something that makes a difference in their life. And you just don't know that every time. But I do believe that if we take that approach to the fundraising that we enter into, it will change not only the lives of the people that are giving to us, but it will change our organization as well. Consider what Paul says in Ephesians 4. Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, the teachers to equip his people for works of service so that the body of Christ may be built up. Have you ever thought about that? That's the reason we have pastors and teachers, and not to tell us what we ought to do, not to be the judge and jury over the things we're not doing well. They are given to us to equip us for works of service. All right? So what does that say to us and as nonprofit leaders and what we do? Primarily, our job is not to raise money to keep salaries going in our organization. Our job is to equip people for roles of service in the kingdom. And we're one of the ways they can do that. Okay, each one of you have a ministry that you are called to lead, and you should be thinking in terms of how can I equip others to participate in this ministry. And you know what? Some of them, your ministry is not the one. Some of them, it's going to be another ministry. But when you talk to someone about giving to you, rather than talking about giving me something, talk to them about the opportunity that you have for them to be equipped for service in the kingdom of God. We also believe and teach one other thing that I'll spend just a little bit of time on. It's called PEO. PEO stands for participation, engagement, and ownership. It's a system to help you grow and equip champions in service of the kingdom. If we are going to, in fact, equip others, how are we going to do that? Well, PEO is this: participation. You want people to participate with you in your service to the kingdom. Engagement. You want people to then engage themselves in what you're doing to the point that at one point in time they hopefully will take ownership in your cause as well. PEO. Now, there's numerous ways that we can get participation with our nonprofits. You're all doing this anyway. You may not have ever thought about it like that, but you're all saying to yourself, how do we involve people in what we're doing? Well, we all know that the best way to get somebody involved is get them out to your location, let them see what we're doing. Let's get them involved. Some people, it's easier to get volunteers than others. But you've got to get people to start that process and participate with you. It may be come to a dinner, a fundraising dinner. It may be come clean up a yard. Whatever it is, get them to participate. Okay, now that we've got them to participate, what do we do? What are the next steps we take to get them to engage with us? Okay? And you know what? Seldom do those people who participate with you in some way, do they provide you with their own next steps to engage. That's our responsibility. Help them take those next steps that will engage them with us. Okay? So when somebody makes a donation to you, don't think in terms of, I'm glad we got that. Think, okay, we got that. What do they need me to do to help them take a next step? Because that next step will take them closer to engagement. And once they start engaging with you, they will, at some point in time, hopefully become to take ownership in what you do. And you'll know when that happens. They'll be telling other people about you. They'll be saying, this is what I do for this ministry. Would you come with me to this dinner? All of your board members, they should be in that ownership phase. They are the primary volunteers of your organization. As I said, Monday morning at Watermark Church, I'll be doing a two-hour seminar on board engagement. It's my feeling that boards that's probably the area where we fall down the most, because the 80-20 rule holds true. If you've got a board and you've got 20% of them that are engaged with you, the other 80% may not be. And that needs to change. And that has to change by educating your board on what their roles and responsibilities are. We don't always do a good job with that. So that's why if any of you need that and would like to come on Monday morning, that's a beginning place. Once we go through that, you may have you may want me to come out and talk to your board and do some board education, some board training. We can do that. But think just little things like they all have to participate with you financially. They have to. And you may have said that to them, and they haven't responded. But you know what? It's really hard for you to ask somebody else to participate with one of your opportunities when your board's not doing that. And they need to know that. And they need to know that if we're not doing that, there's a place we can continue to serve this ministry. It's just probably not on the board. There are some things your boards need to know and understand about their roles and responsibilities. And it's hard for you as directors, even as or executive directors, or even as directors, board members, to say that to everybody else. Sometimes you need somebody else to come in. You know, it's hard to be called a prophet in your hometown. So sometimes you need somebody else to come in and talk to them and say, okay, guys, you know, here's where the rubber meets the road. This organization is going to grow or not grow based on the things you do and don't do. So, and PEO works for them as well. But remember, the P there is just an entry step into your cause. It requires a very low level of commitment, very little knowledge of your organization. Like I said, it may just be coming to a dinner. Do something to start getting involved. There's no experience required. The goal is to make it easy for them, that first step. Then the next step, in engagement, it comes in when there are more deliberate opportunities. There's greater involvement, you're developing a rhythm with those people, and there's more responsibility for them to be involved. It comes a deeper knowledge and a deeper commitment to the cause, and that's what you're trying to reach, is that engagement. If everybody's engaged, you're going to do well. Ownership, it comes from a me to a we. It's not about me being engaged with you anymore, as much as it is, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this thing better? How are we going to grow the kingdom through the cause and the solutions that we provide? One of the most important things we can do is, you've all heard of an elevator speech. I could go around the room and say, what does your organization do? Each one of you should be able to tell me that in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, you should be able to give me the problem that exists, the solution that we provide, and the outcome we expect in 30 seconds. It sounds difficult, but it can be done. And the reason it's needed is we lose people because we try to tell them everything we know about our organization. And you'll lose them because they'll say, oh, thanks. And they don't know where to go from there. But your boards, especially, possibly you fit into this category as well, do not know what to say when somebody asks you, OC out, what does that say? Yeah. What is that? What is that, John? Okay, you don't have to answer. That's a rhetorical question. But when somebody says that to you, he's got it on his sweatshirt, you need to be able to give them an answer. And you want that answer to get a response. You want them to ask you a question from that. And from that, then, John, you can enter into a conversation and go where they go. Let them lead you with their questions. Too many nonprofit fundraisers don't listen to the people they're talking to enough. There's no saying you don't learn anything if you're the only one doing the talking. Okay, so learn to listen to the people that you're explaining your organization to, and let them take you where they want to go. Because when you do, I'm going to use your organization as an example. They do work with grief recovery, and you've given me your explanation. I say, grief recovery. Do you do kids? Yes. Okay. Now, I've just told her where my interest lies. So she's not going to talk to me about adult grief recovery. She's not going to talk to me about divorce she's going to talk to me about, yes, we do children. Do you any particular area yes. As a matter of fact, I've got a nephew that his parents are divorced, and so now I'm telling her where to go, and that's where she needs to stay. Okay? So learn to listen. And then when she starts talking to me and getting me to think about that P, how can she get me to participate with them? she's going to be thinking about, what is it that I need? What is it in what I've said to her that indicates what my needs are? Because that's what she wants to address. She's not so concerned about telling me all about the organization, because they do a ton of stuff. But I've told her where my need lies, and because my needs are most important to her, that's where that's where that conversation is going to go. And getting me to participate is going to revolve around those questions that I've asked of her. We could go, obviously there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but the transformational giving as opposed to transactional giving and a theology of abundance are two critical issues that if you don't walk out of here with anything else, believe that. If you have concerns about that, talk to me or do some study yourself. But those are things that we all need to buy into. And I promise you, it will help make fundraising joyful for you. I got an email from an executive director the other day, and she said, I never thought I would think fundraising could be joyful until I made this shift. Okay? She couldn't have said anything better to me than that. Because I believe it's true of all of us that when we make that shift, believe in the abundance of God and His faithfulness and transformational giving as opposed to transactional, it takes a burden off of us as directors, executive directors, fundraisers. It takes a burden off of us because we're no longer begging people for money, not asking for gifts. We're saying, we've got opportunities that you can participate in that will grow you and will grow our organization. So let me ask you an important question. What do you want for your donors? Think about that question. Let it sink in. What do you really want for your donors? Do you want them to grow? Do you want them to experience joy? Do you want them to bear fruit? Do you want them to feel ownership of your cause? Do you want them to feel like a valued partner in your work? What do you really want for your donors? I want you to believe that fundraising is ministry. I want you to make that paradigm shift from transactional to transformational fundraising. And I want you to ask every donor, what do I want for them, not what do I want from them? There's a lot of things that we can offer, but I truly believe that those things are those are the core of the things that Mission Increase offer. And we offer it, we do operations, we do board development, we do marketing. We'll talk about all those things with you. Wherever your needs lie, we will go there with you. But know that these aspects that I've talked about today, everything's going to revolve around those things. I've often said if you want nonprofits to come to a meeting, tell them you're going to talk about fundraising, because we are all concerned with fundraising. And the fact of the matter is, it does play a part in virtually every aspect of what we do. So we would love to have all of you registered with Mission Increase. That's all you have to do to come to our seminars for free, to ask for one-on-one coaching. Register with our organization. It does not cost a dime. You go online at missionincrease.org. It will walk you through the process. We do ask for some of your information. And you need to know that we don't want that information so that we can keep track of you. We want that information so we can keep track of us. You can't evaluate what you can't measure. So we try to make measurements that let us know we're doing what we say we're doing in our community. And the only way we can do that is we'll ask for some fundraising information. How much money did you raise last year? We're gonna do the same thing next year, and we're gonna say, did you grow? Because if our ministries aren't growing, we're not doing a good job with them. So it's some people, they start writing down those numbers about how much we bring in and it's not for anything we're going to do with you. In fact, most of it we'll go and get with GuideStar in the future. But we do need that so that we can keep track of what we're doing and make sure that we're doing a good job in the community. I encourage you to register with us. I encourage you to give me a call if you want to sit down and talk individually. I am the Fort Worth area director. I am currently the Dallas director as well, because we lost our director over here in May, and we are searching for a new area director at this time. It's too big an area for one person to cover Fort Worth and Dallas. In fact, we actually need two people in Dallas, truth be known. We need a South Dallas and a North Dallas person. But in the interim time, I'll be the one doing the workshops over here, and I will also be doing the one-on-one coaching. I come over here all the time. I also do Zoom if you want to just meet by Zoom or a phone call. I want you to know that I'm available to you. All you have to do is get with me. Register with us. We'd love to add each and every one of you, and all of you that are not here, but we'll see this video. Join Mission Increase at missionincrease.org and register with us and continue to work with us in the future, because our goal is to grow ministries in the kingdom. Thank you very much. Any questions before I get off?